Following in a similar path as Shin Godzilla, Godzilla Minus uses the nuclear lizard franchise to explore political and social themes, but where Shin Godzilla was more rooted in political commentary centered on modern-day Japan, Minus takes the franchise back to its post-World War II period of grief. The film is haunted by survivor's guilt. The human plot is at its center, and it makes the film all the more better, unlike certain movies. By returning to its post-World War II roots, Minus uncovers a nation's troubled identity and the unbearable weight it has on the individual. The rest of this video is going to be going a little more in depth on how I feel about this movie, so I'm going to be going into spoilers. If you want to score, it's an 11 minus 1 out of 10. I love it to pieces, and I don't want to spoil it, so please just go watch this movie, buy a ticket, IMAX if you can, and come back after if you want. I went into this film with pretty optimistic expectations. I had heard good things about the human story, but I wasn't expecting it to be this good. Not only is the narrative that unfolds gripping, these are also some of the best performances this franchise has seen since Bryan Cranston in 2014.
Somebody in charge, not you. No, not you. I'm done talking to you.
The film follows Koichi, a kamikaze pilot who abandoned his mission as the war came to an end, a dishonorable act in the eyes of Imperial Japan's beliefs. Godzilla ends up attacking where he landed, and when Koichi fails to fight back, the deaths of the engineers are blamed on him. Dishonor and survivor's guilt haunt Koichi throughout the entire film. Returning to his home in ruin after the fire bombings, his only surviving neighbor is not happy to see him alive, believing that his death could have somehow saved others. Even as he builds a new home, builds a family with Noriko, makes amends with his neighbor even, he is still burdened with the belief that he should have died that day. The mark of death that was placed on him, and the guilt for the lives he could not save, haunts him, and he struggles to reach out to the ones close to him. When he finally admits to Noriko what happened after he has a nightmare, she tells him, "It's just a dream. Ghosts you created." Even with the reassurance from his loved ones, it still isn't enough to change how he feels. When Noriko sacrifices herself to save him from an atomic blast, it further reinforces his belief that life has to be sacrificed in order for others to live. This concept of a necessary sacrifice can be found in the 1954 film, when a man describes an ancient ritual of throwing a girl to the sea in order to appease Godzilla. The uncaring attitudes of Japanese leadership continues in Minus where it is up to people to rebuild their homes and to be the ones who ultimately devise a plan to stop Godzilla. Let's take a moment to talk about the titular cancer lizard himself. Minus does not fully go in the direction of body horror found in Shin Godzilla's design, but I think Minus design finally achieves what the original film intended. Gone are the somewhat goofy eyes of the 1954 design. Here, despite the monolithic size of this reptile, his eyes stare directly at us, and it is just terrifying, man. When he is struck by explosives, his fast regenerative abilities make it seem like victory is always just barely out of reach. The atomic breath is at its most terrifying here, with it fully embracing the horrifying imagery of a nuclear explosion. The monolithic scale of his destruction alongside his unnerving regeneration makes Godzilla appear unstoppable. In its third act, the film must figure out if a sacrifice is needed to defeat this uncaring force of nature, or if they really can carry out a plan where nobody has to die. There is this great exhilarating feeling to seeing Koichi take flight, but at the same time there is this sense of unease, knowing what he plans to do. This is also a good moment to mention that this film's soundtrack is amazing. These orchestra arrangements carry so much hope and fear, and this music piece that just soars with the playing makes for an incredible spectacle. We see Koichi, now totally in control and outmaneuvering the force behind all of his guilt, but at the same time we know that he plans to throw his life away to end this pain. But that isn't what he does. The only engineer that survived the first attack does not see Koichi's death as the key to this plan's success. He gives him forgiveness, and shows Koichi that there is a way out of this pain that does not end in death. Godzilla's defeat is brought about by a unified fight to live, not a fight to the death. It is a nation healing and moving past its old ways. No longer are people's lives only valued in the ways they died, but instead in how they choose to live. In any other movie, I would think the twist at the end was a cop-out or sequel bait, but that is not the case here. Noriko being alive and presumably saved by the fallout left by Godzilla is not something I would see as a dark twist. To me, it's confronting the nuclear roots of the franchise, showing that good can be done with the discoveries we have made. Godzilla's corpse regenerating at the bottom of the sea is a warning that humanity runs the risk of doing irreparable damage to itself if it continues to ignore the warning signs. But what I find truly beautiful about the ending is how it encapsulates the message of the film. Koichi finding Noriko alive in a hospital is essential to showing him that nobody has to die in order to achieve something. Even through all the hardship and guilt one will experience in their life, life is worth living.